Hello and welcome. My name is Josh from the Majestic Procession, and in this video I'm going to talk about a band that were a massive influence on my music over the last 30 odd years, the Sisters of Mercy. So 3, 2, 1, let's begin. Where do we start? So I grew up, like most people, getting a dose of music from my parents, and they had quite a large record collection, I seem to remember. In the early 1980s, when I was little, they'd play things like Elvis Presley, Barry Manilow, all sorts of things like that. A bit of Rolling Stones sometimes, the Kinks. So it's basically music from when they were much younger. Typically, on a Sunday afternoon, we'd also listen to the top 40 in the UK. You'd get a rundown of the top 40 singles, and that was really my exposure to music. From about the age of 9, I started having guitar lessons, and I was learning classical guitar. So I had classical guitar lessons for a few years, and then I kind of got to being a very early teenager, and I realised that I didn't have my own kind of taste in music. I just simply hadn't really discovered what my taste in music was. And so that was quite interesting. How do you find your taste in music? That's quite an interesting question. I'd like to know how other people find that. But for me, what I did was I bought a whole bunch of tapes, audio cassettes. I went to my friends at school and just gave each one a tape and said, put some music on it, something you think I might like. And ended up with quite a diverse selection of music, all sorts of things from like rap to metal. It was very diverse. And one particular friend I gave a tape to, and actually found the inlay card. I've been up in the loft recently, and you probably can't read that there, but it's a Sony UX-ES90 tape. If anyone remembers what one of those was, it was a very fancy tape, so I must have had high hopes for this particular person. They'd give me some nice music, because I gave them a very nice tape to put it on. And it's the Sisters of Mercy. So the track listing is quite eclectic actually now. I know much more about the Sisters. So we start off with This Corrosion and Torch. I think this is from the 7-inch or cassette single. And then we have Lucretia, My Reflection, Giving Ground, Adrenochrome, Temple of Love. And then after that, I think they got bored and simply just put the whole of First and Last and Always on the cassette, although they put side B on first and then side A. But I didn't know anything about this. This is my first taste of the Sisters of Mercy. And I think out of all the different bits of music that I got from my friends, this was the one that really impressed me, because it actually kind of sounded like what I imagined it would sound like in a funny sort of way. The Sisters of Mercy could conjure up a whole range of things. I mean, there's a religious order of the same name, but I don't think I was expecting any religious music. I think I was expecting something quite dark and quite brooding, quite moody, quite rocky. And I certainly wasn't disappointed. And I have to say, at this point, I didn't know anything about the Sisters of Mercy at all. I didn't know where they were from. Were they from America? Were they British? I didn't know. And it wasn't immediately obvious listening to the music. Obviously, with This Corrosion, you have the New York Choral Society on there. So I think I was probably picking up some American accent in the singing, maybe. So I had no idea. And so I was very impressed with that tape. I gave it quite a few listens, and I thought, wow, this is quite impressive. And so I made a commitment. I went down to my local WH Smith's in the UK, and I made a purchase. And I came back with this album here, although it was on audio cassette then. This is probably about the 7th or 8th copy of Floodland that I've ever had. I've had loads of copies of this. I mean, the tape ones I had probably wore out. There's been reissues. I even have the vinyl one that has the different mixes on, which I really like. And this went on, amazingly enough. The first album I ever bought became my favourite album of all time. And so, yeah, if I'm in that frame of mind that I want to listen to something that I really like, this is the album. So at first I didn't really understand exactly what the Sisters are about. I thought they sounded cool. I was impressed by the sound. I guess I liked the kind of darkness of the sound. It seemed to conjure up the mood that I was after. And it was only later that I kind of got to learn more about them and the history of the band. And it was all quite interesting. And I gradually found that there was such a depth of intelligence in the lyrics that really attracted me and kept me hooked much longer than maybe I might have been with another poppier band with not so deep lyrics. And it actually took me a very long time to work out that there was a lot of humour in the lyrics. It's not kind of laugh out loud humour. I think Eldritch himself describes it as being a very, very dry sense of humour. But there is humour in there, a lot of humour nonetheless, when you start dissecting the lyrics. And I think maybe even after like 10 years of liking them, that was, still giving me something interesting to find. It's been enormously frustrating, I think, to be a Sisters of Mercy fan since about 1989 when I found them. Obviously, I got the Vision Thing album when it came out, and that I quite enjoyed. Not so much as Floodland, but still a very good record. But since then, we've had very little in the way of new releases. We just had the one single, I think, in 1993, and there's been a whole bunch of songs live. But I'm one of those people that would like to have, the CD or whatever format it will come out in my hand. I mean, it may just even be a digital download now, who knows. But, I would like there to be a studio release very much. So how did the Sisters of Mercy influence my sound? So initially, I quite like that kind of dark sound. I was quite into making my own music since about the same time, actually. About late 1980s, I got into making my own music, predominantly guitar-based. And I needed something to help me with the rhythm. So what does one do when one needs help with the rhythm? Well, there is a solution. And here's my not so trusty and rather dusty Yamaha DD10 drum machine, which my colleague and I, who I was making music with at the time, dubbed Dr. Snowstorm, in tribute to Dr. Avalanche, of course. So I did a lot of music with that. It helped me not having to have a real drummer in my bedroom, which would have been, impossible, quite frankly. And, it made me sound a bit more like the Sisters of Mercy, I guess, that kind of pounding, relentless rhythm, albeit with the kind of rappy snitch of a snare drum that you get with the DD10. And I definitely wanted something a bit more rockier. And over the years, I found different drum machines that could give me a better sound, but that was the original Dr. Snowstorm. And of course, Dr. Avalanche changed many times over the years as well. So yeah, that's how the Sisters of Mercy really influenced my music. I think over the years, my music's become a lot more electronic. I set out to do guitar-based music, but I started buying more things that would help me get a more professional sound. Like with the bass, I used a couple of different groove boxes to sequence the bass lines, and that gave a really powerful driving bass line. And I think it's interesting that the Sisters of Mercy have gone that way as well. The bass is now pretty much only sequenced, sometimes played live, but most of it's sequenced. So maybe that's something else I've inadvertently picked up from the Sisters. I've only seen them live once, the Sisters of Mercy. I would say they're my favourite band, and I would like to see them again, but I guess just circumstances over the last 30 years, having a young family and, not really getting around to going to some of the gigs. But I went to one, and the highlight of that for me in the encore was Lucretia, My Reflection, which is one of my favourite songs. And at the end of it, I was about 3 people from the front of the stage, and I distinctly remember Eldritch just looking down at me, gazing right at me intently for about 5 or 6 seconds. And that was just, a powerful experience that I won't forget in a hurry. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I'm going to put a link below to my playlist, which is on YouTube, and also to my Bandcamp. Please feel free to check out my music. I guess it's not for everyone. I do instrumental electronic music. I'm working on adding more kind of vocally bits to it, but mostly it's instrumental. It's been evolving considerably over the last 30 years. It's only recently I've started putting it out for people to listen to. So I hope some of you enjoy it, and goodbye.